Good morning, everyone. We are now live for our session to answer some questions on that come through on the live stories and post on our Facebook as well. So we've got a handful of them to come on. And I'm just give you a moment to see if anyone's coming in.
Hope everyone's keeping warm whilst the storm is passing, starting to brew up.
Not too bad here yet. I think it's going to get worse as the day goes in, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So I think we are probably at a good point to get going now. We're going to start doing these quite regularly, at least every other week, and Emma's going to be joining us doing more of them on Facebook too. So as and when you have questions, send them over to us, whether that's through other places. I'm just thinking I might go live on Instagram as well, and just do it as a live where they can only see me.
Oh no, I feel left out now.
In any case, I'm just going to send you the questions because I'm not going to the questions we've got off Instagram because I won't be able to see both at the same time.
Okie dokie.
So send you a little picture of these. There we go.
Okay.
You've got those.
No problem. All right. Well, should we go with that? The first one on there. Well, there's a little bit of feedback with that one. So.
Feedback on what we're Instagram on?
A tiny bit, but hopefully it'll be all right. Yeah, I think it's okay now.
Yeah, no, all good. Let's go for it. Okay. I'm just going to say hello to the Instagram people first before we
go
in with these, otherwise they're not going to have a clue what's going on. All right, good morning on Instagram. I'm here doing a live with Grace. We're on StreamYard, which means we're feeding out onto our Facebook and our YouTube. It doesn't feed onto Instagram at the same time. So I'm going to do it like this, which means that if you guys have got questions, I can read the questions coming in off Instagram, but I'll probably be facing away from the screen a little bit. I'm going to try and do that. See Grace, hopefully.
Camera one, camera two, camera one, camera two. Okay.
As I run through.
I'm going to go for this first one on here, Sam, just because the one that you've just sent me. So we've got one coming in saying, starting CII, could I do LM1/LM2 and then pick diploma modules, not doing LM3 then, because they work for a broker? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so if you're doing LM1, you'll need to do LM2. But your points drop down. So you don't necessarily have to do your third module as a certificate module. So you can do a diploma module and then those credits will essentially just drop down to the level below. What's, I think, kind of interesting with this person's question is if you're going to look at doing a diploma as your third option, it's probably because you're looking to do your diploma later on anyway. Maybe you're looking through LM3 thinking that's not so suited to me. There might be another one that's more suited. I point you towards I-10, which is the certificate broking module. So you can absolutely do LM1, LM2, and then don't do LM3, pick a different module. So pick I-10. So for example, people in claims in London market, we often recommend you do LM1, LM2, and then go on to IF4. I would say, I would encourage you to do the third certificate module first before going on to DIP. It's quite a jump going from certificate to DIP. And you're going to have to do them anyway. So you're going to need to backfill your credits at certificate level somewhere down the line. So it's not like you won't need to come back to that module. So it makes sense just to do that at the beginning as you're building your knowledge to make that sort of step up to diploma a little bit easier.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would have said I-10 just purely because after you do LM1 and LM2, I-10 is just so much more straightforward, isn't it, in lots of ways. It's just a nicer book and it will be stuff that you're doing day to day as well. So you can probably kind of get it done pretty quickly, to be honest. So good. Okay, another question came in, just very short and sweet, which I love. Best way to approach ACII essays? Well, I've made a couple of notes around this. So essays are kind of, depending on which module you're doing, they come in the form of needing 3,200 words, and they're normally broken down into 3 parts. So first thing I would do, and I'm a little bit of a kind of old school person, so I would probably print it out to do this rather than having it on the screen, but I would deconstruct the question. And so what I mean by that is actually looking at the scenario, finding out, or doing a bit of a fact-finding mission to try and find out exactly what they're telling you. What type of business is it? Is it big, small, medium? Is it in the UK? Is it international? Is it global? Think about all of these little snippets of information they've given you, because they've given them to you for a reason. So do that with the scenario first, and then start to do it with the questions. Now, at the back of all of your coursework kind of questions, you'll have a little glossary about the words that are used within those. So I'm just going to read you a couple of those now to get you into the swing of things. If you've got, for example, an identify, the CII are wanting you to just recognize a name. So don't write 900 words on an identify section. It's just, you're wasting your word space. So identify is, if that's the first thing, then that wants the kind of the brief, introduction. This is what I'm doing. If you've got an analyze, that gets a little bit more involved. So analyze, if I read this now, is finding the relevant facts and examining these in depth, examining the relationship between various facts and making conclusions and or recommendations. So that's going to be the chunking part of your essay. And then if you've got something on the end, like a recommend, you're going to provide reasons in favor of or against or whatever else it might be. Now, once you've kind of broken that down, I would suggest that you do a plan to make sure you don't go over those sections. So if you make a little plan with some bullet points, perhaps to say, right, this is what I'm going to write about in identify. This is how I'm going to expand on them in the analyze. And then I'm going to come to some kind of conclusions in the recommend. So I would definitely kind of approach it like that, step by step, focus on one at a time. Don't try and do loads of different courseworks at the end. And just remember to provide some kind of external reading evidence. So I would say maybe after you've done the plan and during you're doing the plan, make sure that you're just researching lots of different kind of articles, some books perhaps, and different other things that you can just put in there as being overall knowledge.
Yeah, Sam, and you can do your own first-hand research as well. So you could be researching by looking on your intranet page, looking at your own company accounts, interviewing people within your business. So the idea of the advanced diploma is to encourage you to learn about the topic and come to your own opinions. So it's the more information you gather about your organisation, the organisation you're looking at, the fuller argument you're going to be able to position and put forward. So don't just sit in front of Google. Get out and ask people. I personally found it really interesting when I did my very last module was when these coursework questions came in. So the last one I did was in that way. And I probably learned more from that module than any of the others, because it was the only time that I got to see what was in the book, but understand how it applied to my job. And that made it feel a little bit more meaningful and kind of connected to it as well.
Yeah. It's good for networking as well. It gives you a reason to go and speak to your analysts or risk management department or whatever else it might be. So that's always good to kind of get you out and about and talking to people. I've got one more, Sam, unless you've got anything else on that.
No, if you've got any questions coming in, do pop them into, there's a few people saying hello. But if you've got questions for us, feel free to just add them in. We'll take them as we go as well, but jump yours in, Grace.
So it's a bit of a funny time in January and February because the certificate modules update. And so lots of people ask me, how much is going to be updated and so on. You can go onto the website and see the sections that have been updated. A lot of them, to be honest, are things like web links and various other things. They might have entered in new information, for example, on vulnerable customers or some of the FCA's positive outcomes and things like that. But otherwise, the only other thing that people are getting a bit anxious about is where perhaps there's a be aware box that says, oh, by the way, this piece of legislation is due to come in January 2022. Now, the books get written a few months in advance of that, and then they go to print. So just to give you a bit of an idea, on the CII website, and I'm just going to draw your attention to this, it says the general rule is that legislative and industry changes will not be examined earlier than 3 months after they come into effect. So whereas they've said it in the book, just be mindful. So there's a couple of instances of this in LM1 and I think LM2 as well, where they've said it in the book, but perhaps it's going through at the moment as we speak, but it's not going to actually be in the question pool until, say, for example, April or May. So just be mindful of that. There's normally a 3-month delay for the actual question bank to be updated.
So you got a 3-month grace period. Oh, grace period.
Yeah.
So they put something new in the book and it wasn't there in your version of the book. Don't panic.
Yeah.
But get on and do your exam.
Yeah, for mainly for legislative and kind of regulatory changes. So as I said, there's a couple of bits that have been changed in January, and as I said, they're not going to. The old position will still be relevant for your exam for now, and then it will change a bit later.
Yeah, I've got a question that's coming as well.
Ooh, okay.
From Dom. Hey, Dom. So doing LM1 soon, and then LM2, and wondering which one is the best one to do after that for them if they're looking at doing underwriting as an option. So it's going to probably be IF3.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to carry on with the LM series, LM3 is good as well, but IF3 gives you a bit more of a, I guess, a wider perspective, because it's not just solely focused on the London market. So IF3, yeah.
IF3.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more focused on general insurance. So there's less Lloyd's content in there. So it depends how much of your business that you're doing. Is it Lloyd's focused or is it company market? I would say if it's company, do IF3. If it's Lloyd's, you might as well stick with LM3. It's good in the series. It's written by the same person.
They're equally difficult, I'd probably say, as well.
Yes, I would say. Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of LM3 looks sort of deceivingly nicer because it's a shorter book, 25 chapters. There's a lot of stuff in there, whereas IF3 is a bit more fits together a little bit easier, I'd probably say. But also, you know, don't panic too much. You're not going to be in a situation where you're ever, you know, explaining why you want to sort of promotion or go for a job, and they're going to say, "Oh, but you didn't do the right modules." You know, it absolutely will help build your general knowledge if you're doing modules that align to things. But really, it's achieving that qualification that's the thing that's going to stand out more when you're looking at progression. So it's the qualification status rather than the individual modules that you did. All of them are going to help you build your knowledge, and especially if you're looking at something like underwriting, it comes into every module anyway, so it is going to get covered in there as well. But once you get onto diploma, then you know, you can of course go in and do that a little bit more meaty with MAT as well.
Lovely. Oh, got a couple more come in.
Coming in the chat. This is fun.
Blimey.
I think they're just suddenly all coming in, so it might be on the signal there. So how to approach MO5 insurance law written assessments, how to answer them in a relevant manner using proper references from the textbooks. MO5 is Grace's favourite, so I'll let you run into this one.
So MO5, so you've got obviously your 10 questions, and they might ask you for relevant statutes and relevant case law. Even if the question doesn't ask that, I would probably justify your answer with an area of case law that is relevant. So how to actually answer them in a relevant manner, it very much depends on the question. I refer back to my kind of looking at the deconstruction part of it. If it's, for example, an explain, then you're being asked to make something clear and easy to understand. But with law, they tend to throw in discuss, because you're having to weigh up details. So to consider something in detail, examine the different ideas and opinions about something, and weigh up alternative views. With law, there's sometimes no correct answer. So bear that in mind. Some people are really looking for a concrete answer, but the point of the question is sometimes that there isn't one. And so you are having to explore the different aspects of the legal environment and what would probably be concluded in a legal environment. So in terms of referencing, the CII tend to use what we call the Stanford technique in terms of referencing. It's normally wherever the sources come from, you normally take their surname, the date of the author that's written it, and perhaps maybe you could reference maybe a little number and then put the following rest of the reference in the reference section at the end of the essay. So I would probably do it like that, so you don't eat up your word count. So if it was written by me, you would put in the brackets, Max did 2021, close brackets, and then maybe put the actual source in the reference a little bit below. If you're referencing the book, it's good practice to do it, because so you know where you've got it, but ultimately it's going to be the book writer, and it's Chris, but his surname has escaped my head for a second. It was Chris, can't remember, but ultimately the book will have been updated in 2021, so it will be his name, and then maybe in the other reference section you might want to write the page number and maybe section number that it was on, just to be, you know, complete. I hope that helps.
I've got a couple of questions from Instagram. I'm going to come to these first because
okay. Oh, Parsons, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Chris Parsons. I should know that. I've just gone a bit blank on Friday morning. Yes.
Okay, so do you need to notify the CII when choosing an advanced diploma module in addition to core diploma units in order to obtain the DIP? No. So what will happen is every time you pass a module, your learning statement will be updated, and that's essentially the calculation for your credits, and then your credits will be added up for each level. It will work out what you've got and that you've got enough credits within each one. Now, this is a nightmare. We appreciate it's a nightmare. We do have a spreadsheet which helps people calculate their credits at different levels. But we're currently we've got a new website coming, hopefully in about 3 weeks. And one of the very exciting features on that website is a page where you can select the modules you are doing at different levels, and it will tell you whether you've got enough of the right modules and the right compulsory units to get your cert, dip, and advanced diploma. So we'll have that coming for you soon as well. So make sure you got that on the front end before you decide them. But don't worry, the CII have all automated systems in place to pick up that information. Another question that's come through here is ACI modules. Can you do the main broking and the underwriting compulsory units? It's very confusing on the website. Yes, you can, and yes, it is confusing. Quite often they make it really clear what you have to do, but they don't tell you when there's a combination of things that you can do. So you can do advanced underwriting, advanced broking, and advanced claims if you want to. The rule is just that you have to do one of them. The same rule applies for M92, so Business and Finance Diploma, and 530 Advanced Diploma. You can do both.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly recommend you do both. The reason you don't have to do both is because there's a lot of crossover between the two. So if you've done M92, you might want to do 530. If you've done 530, you might want to do M92. So it just because it's saying one or the other doesn't mean it's only one of the other.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, do ask. You can ask us. You can ask the CII. Because it is really unfortunate when someone does the wrong combination. That's quite a tricky combination, which actually brings me to the comment we've got on this page.
Yes, actually, I was going to jump in there because Music 1879, thank you so much for filling me in on the surname. But Sam, I was just going to say exactly what you've just said to them, because they're working as a business analyst, they're paying for it themselves. They work on tech systems for insurers. So in terms of, they've got LM1, IF3 and IF4 as a cert. You don't have to do LM2. You can do those other two modules.
If you do LM1, you do have to do LM2. So you can, if you're doing LM1, you've got to do LM2 with it for them to count together now. You can't just do LM1. You can just do IF1, but if you do LM1, you've got to do LM2. So you'd have to replace, and I'd replace IF3 out of those ones that you've got there in terms of making it more straightforward. So LM1, LM2, and IF4.
And then because you've got the M92 and you're doing business analyst work, I would say do 530 as well, wouldn't you, Sam?
Absolutely. And I, with an instant, change M97 out for that one. M97 is the reinsurance module. It's tricky, especially for even people working in reinsurance. So if you're a business analyst, that's going to be particularly tricky. Mm-hmm. So I would say look at 530 for M97. And also you might find, so you do MO5 and M97, M92 at diploma level. Always makes sense to, I think, do those ones. They're really grounding, and of course it kind of ticks off the compulsory areas. Have you paid for them all? Have you enrolled in all of them? Which ones have you done? If you haven't got the books yet, sometimes
don't worry. But the credits will still count towards that.
Credits will still count. Yeah, we can do different combinations, so you're not going to lose out. We'll need to feed that in as well.
Okay.
Have you enrolled on them all? Because that's a lot to enroll on. You've enrolled on all of them. Right. Okay. Ring the CII up. Get them to tell them that you've not got a great combination. Because the other thing is your clock is going to start counting from the moment you bought them. That is a lot of pressure on yourself to take all the books at the time at each time. So I'm pretty sure they'll be understanding if you give them a call and swap that out. It's worth a try.
They should also, I didn't appreciate that, Sam, about the LM1 and LM2, but they should also kind of, say that if make it super clear that as a pair that you have to get those sorted.
Yeah, it didn't used to be the rule as well. It just changed, and I've got to admit, I didn't notice when it changed. I only noticed the conversation I had with them, and they were like, "No, that's not." And I was like, "When did that change?" Yeah. So I think it's been a rule for about 2-3 years now.
Okay.
But it didn't used to be. So if I was you, and if you get your way in terms of switching them out, and of course that depends on you not using or opening the books, I would try and switch out IF3 for LM2 and M97 for 530.
And I agree with that.
M97, it's fine. That will be fine. It just probably be a little bit easier for you as you do them.
And especially when you've got you're doing 4 all kind of in one go, it's going to be quite a lot. But fair play. If you're paying for it yourself, you're investing in it. Happy days. I mean, it's a good old series to do.
And if you're doing all of that yourself, tell you what, drop us an email. We'll see if we can sort you out some kind of deal with our resources, because that's an ambitious year for you. So if we can support you, we will. I know you've got some revision cards from us, but I'm sure there's some other things we can do.
Oh yes.
Yeah. How recent is your law degree? Because you might even get an exemption from MO5.
You will.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as it's within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So you get a refund on that as well. Try and get a refund on that as well. Let me know how you get on with that.
Yeah.
Okay. What time probably for 1-2 more questions, if anything else is coming through. Great. Oh, you're fine. Right. Definitely. You don't need to do MO5. You have to do a prior learning form. And then that will get your credits accepted. You will probably find you get your credits for MO5 and you get 25 additional unassigned credits, which would mean that you don't even have to do 2 of those modules. So you would not only not have to do MO5, you'd probably not have to do another one, which you might suggest would be the 530 one, depending on the credit statement you get. You've got a few questions to ask them. Get on and ask them. See how you get on with them. Get in touch with us when you get the answers from them, and then depending on what they tell you, what options they give you, we can fix that. So just so you know what we're doing over, because we've got lots going on. It's a very exciting time for us. Emma's joined us as well, and Emma's been training and coaching apprentices doing their CII for years. So she's going to be jumping on and doing lives regularly too. So what we're trying to do really is try to make it so that as and when you have questions, you don't have to wait too long to access them with us. So we'll be doing stories, Q&A feeds regularly to get your questions in advance, particularly on Instagram. And then Facebook, what we really encourage you to do is follow the Facebook group. We put content out there that's sort of a lot more about helping you revise. Instagram's probably a little bit more of a look into what we're doing. Facebook's more of a helping you revise. And what we want really is for Facebook to be the place we help each other. So if you've got an exam coming up, tell us it's coming, tell us you passed, congratulate each other, support each other with it, because it can just be so lonely when you're doing this on your own. So hopefully you can kind of find the right place for what you want to get from us. But we will be doing these lives a lot more regularly. So questions coming in, and I'll also be doing them about career things as well outside of CII. So depending on where you come across us, you might know that this is just part of the business. A lot of what we do is about career development and helping people get promotions and settle into new roles. So we'll also do Q&As that are completely on those topics. So if you've got questions on increasing your confidence, speaking up in meetings, what to do at networking, how to ask for a pay rise, all of that kind of stuff, then you can send those kind of questions in too, and then I'll pick those up separately.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Have a
good day. Grace has actually got my partner's an electrician, and a couple of his electricians are behind the door. So Grace is going to have great company with them today. So
I was thinking the Wi-Fi was going to go out at some point. But yes, I'll go and make some hot drinks, I think.
Perfect. All right. See you later.
All right. Thanks, everyone.